They built cities, invented writing, made the first significant discoveries in mathematics and astronomy, and then they just vanished. And all of this happened 5,000 years ago, when mammoths still roamed our planet. Who were the Sumerians? Where did they come from, and why did they disappear? What contribution did they make to world culture? And is it true that the Sumerians had contact with extraterrestrials? You will find answers to all these questions in this video. Enjoy watching. You know, when we talk about ancient civilizations, many people think of Egypt with its pyramids or Greece with its philosophers. But just imagine, long ago, thousands of years before the ancient Greeks built their temples, and long before the first Egyptian pyramids appeared, people were already living in what is now Iraq. These people were the Sumerians. And they weren't just some tribes with spears. They were true pioneers in what we now call culture and science. The Sumerians are a mystery to modern historians. Where did they come from? Some believe they were the indigenous people of southern Mesopotamia, while others say they came from the east. They settled for many years between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, on fertile land. The Sumerians were the first to learn how to build cities, and not just settlements with a few huts, but actual metropolises, Uruk, Ur, and Lagash. It is believed that these ancient settlements looked something like this. Yes, it was here that they began building huge walls, temples, and palaces that could be seen for miles. By the way, this is why some more exotic theories suggest that the Sumerians might have been influenced by extraterrestrial civilizations. After all, where else could primitive people have learned so much about astronomy, mathematics, and engineering if not from more advanced beings? These ideas, although met with skepticism by scientists, do pique my curiosity. I'll talk more about them later. But what's truly intriguing is that despite all the mysteries and theories, the Sumerians left us Let's talk about it. What interesting and impressive things did these first people create? Well, for example, the wheel. Have you ever wondered who first came up with this ingenious thing? We all take the wheel for granted, but it was one of the greatest inventions of all time. And yes, it was invented by the Sumerians, not by some ancient scholar like Leonardo da Vinci. Later, the wheel paved the way for the creation of carts, pottery wheels, and eventually, the transportation revolution. And what about writing? Without it, there would be no books, laws, history, everything that makes us human. And again, the Sumerians were the first to start recording their thoughts and knowledge. Their cuneiform script was the first step in humanity's endless journey towards self-discovery and development. Let me tell you more about cuneiform. Not everyone knows what it is. Look, this is what it looks like. And it's not just a set of incomprehensible symbols, but a whole system based on simple yet expressive symbols carved into clay tablets. Unlike alphabetic systems, cuneiform used pictograms and ideograms, symbols that represented entire words or ideas. Yes, it's somewhat like hieroglyphs, but still a completely different system. This way, the Sumerians were able to record information about important events, trade transactions, laws, and myths, making their knowledge accessible and understandable to future generations, including us. After all, it is from such tablets that we know that the ancient Sumerians understood astronomy and mathematics. By the way, about that, did you know that it was they who invented the counting system based on the number 60, which we still use in our clocks today? They were the first to divide the circle into 360 degrees, invent the concept of time, create a calendar, and even predict eclipses. It's just incredible. And remember, all of this happened in the times when mammoths still roamed the earth. But that's not all. The Sumerians laid the foundations of the legal system by writing one of the earliest known codes of law, the Code of Ur-Nammu. They invented the first musical instruments, began cultivating grain crops, from which they later brewed the first beer in the world. Yes, beer is also their invention. So when you look at the world around you, whether it's the wheel on a car, the clock on the wall, or the book on the shelf, remember, many of these things were first invented and developed by the Sumerians. They also excelled in this field. The Sumerians used writing not only to record scientific concepts, they knew how to create. They wrote poems, stories, and myths that still captivate the imagination. One of the most famous literary monuments is the Epic of Gilgamesh. This is what it looks like in its original form. Incredible, isn't it? How can one make sense of this? But don't worry, scholars have long done the work for you. Now you can read this poem online in your native language. Just type the right query into a search engine. And for those who are too lazy to read, here come the spoilers. The poem tells the story of Gilgamesh, the king of the Sumerian city of Uruk. The man sought immortality and thus embarked on a long journey with his loyal companion Enkidu. Along the way, they encounter monsters and gods, fight them, and ask questions. The climax of their adventures is the attempt to find immortality from the wise man Utnapishtim, who survived the Great Flood. Utnapishtim tells Gilgamesh that immortality is impossible for mortals and advises him to find meaning and value in his short life. So in the end, the king finally realizes that true immortality is achieved through legacy and good deeds. A great moral story. What do you think? Besides epics, the Sumerians also created lyrical poems and songs, often performed during festivals and religious ceremonies. These works were filled with emotions and reflected the rich inner world of the Sumerians, their fears, hopes, and dreams. And even from their literature, you might have noticed that religion played a significant role in the lives of the Sumerians. But this fact becomes even more apparent when we look at their temples. Have you ever seen these enormous, majestic structures? Ziggurats, stepped pyramids, rose above the cities like sacred mountains, symbolizing the connection between heaven and earth. At the top of each ziggurat was a temple where rituals and ceremonies were regularly conducted in honor of the gods. The religious life of the Sumerians was rich and multi-layered. They worshipped a wide pantheon of gods, each responsible for various aspects of life and nature. At the top of everything stood Enlil, the lord of the air and winds, the chief god on whom literally everything depended. If Enlil was in a bad mood, it could mean droughts, floods, or even the destruction of entire cities. Enki also held an important place. He was the god of wisdom, water, and magic. He was considered the protector of humanity and the one who bestowed knowledge and technologies upon people. He not only performed miracles, but also helped build cities and invent new things. Besides the main gods, there was also a pantheon of goddesses, such as Ninhursag, the goddess of earth and fertility, or Inanna, the goddess of love and war. Each had their own functions and was worshipped in various aspects of life. The cult of the latter was so strong that it spread far beyond Sumer and later became a significant part of other religions and mythologies. The gods regularly intervened in human affairs, demanding respect and offerings. The Sumerians believed that the needs and desires of the higher powers had to be satisfied through rituals. In temples, sacrifices were made, including food and drinks, and special ceremonies were held to maintain the favor of the gods and ensure the prosperity of the city. Sins and violations of the laws could provoke the wrath of the higher powers, so performing rituals was an important aspect of public life. The Sumerians also believed in the afterlife, although their notions of it were quite grim. They thought that after death, souls went to the underworld, where they had to spend eternity performing dark, difficult tasks with no possibility of ever returning to life. By the way, it's precisely these gods that are connected to those strange sculptures with large eyes. You might have seen them at some point. These artifacts not only amaze with their unusual aesthetics, but also make you wonder about the people who created such works of art and what they wanted to express through them. Let's think about it. Sumerian sculptures have unique features. Large, wide-open eyes dominate the face, while everything else seems less detailed. These eyes seem to have a life of their own, as if they see through space and time. But why did the Sumerians place such importance on the eyes? One possible explanation is symbolism. In the ancient world, eyes often symbolized omniscience and divine vision. Perhaps the Sumerians believed that through the large eyes of their statues, they could see the spiritual world or directly communicate with the gods. So these sculptures may have been intended to establish a connection between the human world and the divine. Interestingly, many figurines also have hands folded in a gesture of prayer, further emphasizing their ritual significance. Thus, most Sumerian statues with large eyes depict religious figures, priests, or noble residents praying before the gods. It seems we've solved that mystery. Let's move on to the next one. Myths held immense significance in Sumerian culture. Sumerian myths are an entire world full of intrigue, struggle, and passion. For example, the myth of Inanna's descent into the underworld is one of the most captivating stories, where the goddess of love and fertility ventures into the realm of the dead to seize power but faces terrible trials. This myth symbolizes the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, and carries a profound philosophical meaning that continues to captivate minds today. Another myth, the creation of the world, tells how the gods fought each other for power and then decided to create humans to serve them. From clay mixed with the blood of one of the gods to be intelligent and strong enough to fulfill their duties. And here, in this myth, lies one of the most intriguing theories about the origin of humanity. According to Sumerian texts, the gods didn't just create humans, they used some special cloning technologies to make them. Of course, it would be an exaggeration to say that the Sumerians literally engaged in cloning, but it's fascinating that their myths and legends often align with what we now discuss in the context of genetic engineering. The idea of creating humans artificially is something that intrigued the minds of the ancient Sumerians, just as it does modern scientists. We could say that they anticipated not only the future of science, but also our desire to understand how life works and how it can be recreated. What if these ancient stories about human creation reflect not only fantasies, but also some real knowledge lost over time? Now let's move on to one of the most exciting and mysterious topics related to the Sumerians. Some people believe that the ancient civilization, which existed thousands of years ago, might have had contact with extraterrestrials. It sounds like the plot of a sci-fi movie, but for some researchers, it's an entire hypothesis supported by ancient texts and artifacts. So the Anunnaki, mysterious deities who, according to legends, descended from the heavens to earth. In Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki are described as powerful beings who played a key role in the creation of humanity and its governance. But the most intriguing part is how they are described. Tall, with unusual appearances, possessing supernatural knowledge and abilities. This is why some researchers claim that the Anunnaki were not just gods, but representatives of a highly advanced extraterrestrial civilization that visited Earth in the distant past and shared knowledge and technologies. What else, besides descriptions of their appearance, makes people believe in such extraordinary ideas? Firstly, some texts contain descriptions of flights to the sky, heavenly ships, and even encounters with beings who came from other planets. Secondly, there are many Sumerian artifacts that look too advanced for their time. For example, some of them resemble modern depictions of rockets or flying devices. Of course, this could be just a coincidence, but these coincidences continue to intrigue researchers. Moreover, it's unclear where the Sumerians' remarkable achievements in astronomy came from. They had an incredible understanding of the planets in the solar system, stars, and their movements. And all this was thousands of years before humanity began to understand these things on a scientific level. Do you believe that the Sumerians had contact with extraterrestrials? And do you believe in aliens at all? Personally, I'm skeptical of these theories. Either way, all we can do is build hypotheses, gather artifacts piece by piece, and decipher cuneiform tablets, because the Sumerians disappeared, and the story of the decline of this civilization is just as complex and multifaceted. Among the most common causes of the Sumerians' extinction are external threats and conflicts with neighbors, environmental problems, and political instability. External threats could have included invasions by nomadic tribes and neighboring peoples, such as the Amorites, who gradually took over Sumerian territories. Political instability, the changing of dynasties, and internal wars weakened centralized power, leading to the fragmentation of the state into smaller political entities. This made the Sumerians even more vulnerable to their neighbors. Environmental problems, such as the depletion of land resources and climate change, also played a role in the decline. Nevertheless, many questions remain unanswered. Scholars continue to make new discoveries, and who knows, perhaps in the near future, we will be treated to truly astonishing finds. If you also want to travel to the region of ancient Mesopotamia to participate in archaeological excavations, but don't have the funds, I know what to suggest. We are actively looking for new scriptwriters, narrators, editors, and producers for our content. If any of this suits you, be sure to leave an application in our Telegram bot. Thanks for watching.